Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Calgary Catalyst. Today, we have a very interesting episode and a very interesting guest to talk about. Today, our focus is on data. And to discuss this forward with me, I would like to introduce you all to our today's guest, Josh Rainbow. He's the Executive Director of YYC Data. He's here with us today. Thank you so much for joining me, Josh, on this Friday afternoon. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm going to start off with a very basic question. Could you let us know about what's this data scene is all about, like in Calgary? What is that most important information that a non-tech person like me should understood, and also what's something that someone who's very much involved in data should understand?
Yeah, so it's definitely a multifaceted question. So I'll try to start from the high level and then jump down. But the data scene in Calgary is really a part of the tech ecosystem. And so you have different partners like Platform Calgary, Tech Thursday, YYC Data Society that are all kind of focused on building up the ecosystem. And from the data standpoint, really what we're looking at focusing on is moving forward the applied data science industry. And so when we look back, especially at the legacy industries that exist here, we have a lot that are based on data-driven processes. And so when businesses are looking to really go from 0 to 1 in their practices, we always look to take a step back and say, what is the business problem that we're looking to solve and what data do we have available? And so when you look at the people in the space and the ecosystem, pretty much every company nowadays is looking to fuel innovation through data. And when you look at our focus at the Data Society, we're looking to empower individuals, whether they're non-technical or technical, to be able to do those practices.
That's interesting. And coming back to this, how data science is important in solving problems, I would like to understand how data science is actually shaping the innovation landscape in Calgary,
Yeah.
especially in
So
yeah,
I
sorry,
mean,
especially in industries like
sorry, go
sorry,
ahead.
no, I was just adding to especially in industries like energy and technology, with that being on the rise.
Yeah. So in energy, it's actually been here for a very long time. We have a lot of legacy businesses, like RS Energy Group that turned into Adveris, where they were doing machine learning predicting of oil type curves. And so what an oil type curve is essentially when you're looking at production in a well that would produce oil or gas, you look at seeing what is the current production that you're going to see and what is the lifetime production and what does that curve look like so you can produce some sort of economic estimates on when you should stop using the well, stop putting money into it, or when it will stop giving money back to you. And so that's an example of data science and ML that's been around for a very long time in this industry. Um, Back in the day, they used to do a lot of it by hand, where people at our seg would actually be drawing out type curves and doing math by hand. But they built a product that has these algorithms that power it, and so they're able to forecast it for a whole company's set of wells. And so that gets very, very granular on the energy side and looking at, how can we forecast our costs over the next few years and how can we forecast our revenue from this production? That's a great example of how the legacy industry is using it nowadays, especially in Calgary, as we're built off oil and gas. But then as you look at the technology side of things, everybody's been really just housing and collecting data for years and years and years. You always get the examples of the Googles, the Metas, the Netflix, and if you have a product that you're not paying for, like a Google, Netflix, or Netflix you're paying for, but Meta, you are the product, and so they're farming your data, and they use that to predict trends. And so, you look at any of these tech companies nowadays, a lot of them are built off the backbone of data. They have great practices, they have great software suites, but it's all flowing through data and information. And so, when you're looking at going through that value chain from data, information, knowledge to produce insights, the backbone is always going to be that data focus. And then that's where data science comes into play.
That's very interesting to know. I have to admit, I'm new to this, but I understand how much data is important. But these insights are very interesting to learn. So my next question is more leaning towards your answer. So it is to understand when we talk about data helps in better decision making. So I've heard so many people talk about it in conferences and in sessions. So if we have to look beyond the statement about data helps decision making, how further can we go in and see globally and economically, socially, how does it has an impact in actually driving those decisions?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think if you're looking at, you know, beyond just the business and you're looking at that social and economic impact, a great example would be the Calgary government tracks the housing data that's actually brought in. They also track the power pricing data. And so a project I did a while ago was I took the housing influx and looking at population growth, as well as the type of houses that they're buying and the types of people that are coming, you know, whether it's families or single, and look at their power demand. And then you look at the existing supply. So when you're looking at the economic impacts or the social impacts, you have people that are moving to Calgary, but do we have the supply to be able to produce for the demand? And what are the impacts on the electrical grid? So these are things that, you know, affect everyday people. You had a similar situation where there was pipe bursts in Calgary a few months ago during the Stampede. And so I was actually talking the other day to one of the water modeling individuals from the Calgary municipal government, and they were talking about the modeling that they're doing to make sure that never happens again. And so you're taking again that data that's being harvested for years and years and years. They probably have a few decades of water and electrical data. And then you're looking at modeling, how does that affect our population growth? How does that affect the quality of life of individuals that are in these older areas versus the newer areas that are being built out? And how can the choices that the provincial and the municipal governments make be affected by those data sources? It all comes back to the team and the different leaders in those business units to be able to translate that knowledge and then give actionable insights so that we can look at not just, you know, from a revenue standpoint or a business standpoint pushing innovation, but also that infrastructure innovation in our economy as well.
That's great. It makes me feels like it reminds me of the statement that kind of goes like with data, the possibilities are endless. Right? I truly believe it's such a great source, a resource to bring in very effective decisions. Adding on to your point about government, City of Calgary and municipalities using data as a source, how do you
Mm-hmm.
think Calgary can develop that data-driven workforce to integrate that mindset zone into all the work that we do?
Yeah, I you know, I want to give credit where credit's due because I believe we're actually doing a great job with this. Um, you know, Calgary has had this legacy energy, engineering, accounting workforce for a long time. But what we've seen, especially inside of the data society, is a lot of people that are upskilling themselves and transitioning out of oil and gas, which kind of has been happening since the last downturn back in 2014. So you've seen a lot of people with engineering knowledge and engineering backgrounds either go back to school at one of the universities. U of C has had a master's program for data science and analytics for, I believe, 5, 6 years now, possibly more. And they've introduced over the last 6 years a major program for bachelors, a minor program for bachelors, and then state has a program for that as well as MRU that just released theirs last year. And so they're all partners of the Calgary Data Society or the YYC Data Society. And one thing that we're actually looking to do is help influence the concepts that are being taught. And so shout out to Wish Bakshi. He's actually an adjunct professor at Queen's University, Smith School of Business, as well as the UC. And he's working hand in hand with these professors to create the most curated content. It does take some time because, you know, the education industry does move a bit slower than the technology industry. But what Wish is planning on doing is Wish is looking to actually build out, you know, the proper architecture from a knowledge perspective that is agnostic from the tools that you're using nowadays so that these people have the skill sets and the mindsets when they graduate to be able to come out of school and help apply actual solutions to these companies, because it can be easier said than done, and a lot of times you do need some domain knowledge in the space, and so it helps to have a background in trading or economics or oil and gas or energy, agriculture, aerospace, when you're looking to apply these teams and engage with them to help solve their problems. So we do have a good ecosystem that's being built, and we're looking to continue to influence it over the years to come. But the biggest thing is, I think Edmonton has a good example. I'm originally from there, and you have the AMI, Applied Machine Learning Institute, I believe. I'm probably
Yeah.
butchering the acronym, but they have some pretty deep researchers who've been about for a while, and so we're looking to develop a similar sort of ecosystem in Calgary. But because we're all inside of Alberta, you really have this give and take back and forth between the two sister cities to be able to share that knowledge and empower the next generation.
That's cool. I feel like all the questions that you answer, my next question is kind of related to the answer that you just gave me, because my next question was actually about how do you think that educational institutions can collaborate better to ensure that
Mm-hmm.
students are up to standards when it comes to the data science. So I think you kind of answered me on that question already. On that note, I would like to expand it to two more questions. The first one
Mm-hmm.
being, so we are seeing a considerable surge in tech companies and tech founders and tech growth and investments in Calgary. And when in comparison to that, we're also seeing that there's a lot of unemployment challenges as well in the city. So
Mm-hmm.
where do you think that data kind of comes in between, or even within the tech industry, do you think that data even have a bigger role to play, or is there any opportunity that we currently not utilizing or missing to see that we could actually build upon?
Yeah. So the way I usually like to split it is you have tech businesses and you have tech enabled businesses. We have very few tech based businesses in Calgary, but they're, like you said, they're growing. We have great incubators like Platform Calgary, Calgary Economic Development, Alberta Innovates, that are looking to push that forward. But when we're looking at those tech enabled businesses, I think the important thing that I always like to, coach or position is getting quick wins within the business to build value, because a lot of companies can spin their tires if they have these very grandiose ideas of what they're looking to do. For perspective, if you're looking to just apply data governance practices to a business that didn't already have them and it's existing and running, a time frame for that could be anywhere from 18 to 36 months to implement. From the top down, looking at strategy, implementation, hiring, all of that, just to get off the ground and start running, to be able to do those higher level objectives. And so when you're looking at businesses and the best way to interact with them, especially with like a downturn or whatnot, it's making sure to build value within the company. I was recently in Barcelona, and there was an architect called Gaudi, and he built the Sagrada de Familia, or he started building it. It's this great basilica, essentially a church. And what he said is, he's like, I'm gonna build part of it now so that the city has to continue development, rather than going for the big design and then kind of getting to a point and they're like, we'll just stop the project. And so I think a similar approach is needed with a lot of these tech enabled businesses, because the tech business very much see the value in data. You had Cashew just released, and they're a whole business that's tech based, that's built on data. Similar, you look at the Zayzoons, financials, they're all built on relationships and data. But then you have a, you know, legacy oil and gas, or a legacy, accounting business. They may be able to move forward their practice or innovate or amplify workflows through data. But if they have this design that someone's coming in and is like, I want to do this, and it's going to take 2 years to implement, they might be slow to adopt. Oh, it looks like you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, that was a very good analogy. Thank you for giving that example. It kind of helps us to visualize and see how this actually helps in building it. So thank you for that. My next question is actually related to AI. Like we've seen AI is everywhere. Like people are saying it's taking over, people are just learning to adapt. But either ways, it's there. So how do you see that connection between both? And I see data is a huge part of it, and also there is also concerns like privacy and will it use it for bad purposes and things like that. What's your take on it, and how do you think some of the best ways we can actually leverage it?
Yeah, I think a question I have for you then, are you looking from like an individual perspective or like a company perspective or like a societal perspective?
I would say all of it. Yeah, I would say
Okay.
all of it.
Okay, I'll start with the companies because that's the easiest. Having good governance practices on really clear cut ways, whether or not that's just being able to communicate with a device. Deloitte has their own proprietary version of ChatGPT that they use. It has all of their data that's put into it, and it's self-hosted. ATB has a similar version, but rather than going through OpenAI, they went with Google Gemini. And so, those are examples of like enterprise suites that are built out. And so you're able to just bomb information in there willy nilly. But that's like safeguards and practices that the company builds. So if you're going to go from a company perspective, you really have to do education and governance work to be able to set up your employees to succeed. Because you don't want, like you're saying, to have data breaches, or you probably don't want to be putting your data out there to have these models trained on it and then maybe lose some of your proprietary insights. From a personal perspective, I think if you've ever taken an ethics class in university, it's pretty. I'd say it's more or less straightforward. And the biggest thing is to educate yourself through different mediums like the YYC Data Society. There's lots of people who always come out and talk about ethics of AI. We're going to have that at DataCon 2025. That's going to be February 27th to March 1st at the BMO Center, where I'm actually currently am right now. And so, educating yourself on, what makes sense, especially, as you go throughout your career. There's so many different tools. And, whether it's like something like beautiful slides where you can populate a PowerPoint. I use those all the time when I'm looking to spec something out. I'll come up with some sort of idea, some concept, and then I'll have it build it. And then I'll take those ideas and then I'll just go build the presentation myself. But, from a societal perspective, I think, not to get too nebulous, we really just need to look at allowing the markets to play out. I think with something so young, the biggest the biggest thing that we could do to hurt the industry would be to throw regulations on it prematurely without actually understanding it. I think we're still very early on in our understanding of it, and there's very few companies that are actually doing like real time AI. Like there's really three. And you look at everyone else, and they're more so building playgrounds for different people or companies to exist in. And so I think we're in this beautiful realm where there's a big productivity boost. Everybody's trying it out, but you always have to remember that if you're using something for free versus paying for it, usually you're the product. And so you may be able to get some quick wins and some productivity boosts, but if you're just giving information away, there's a reason why they want that information. And so I think it's on everyone to, do their due diligence and, have some level of education on what they should do or what they shouldn't do in terms of, putting their information and data out there.
That's good. That's kind of led me to this curious question. What's your most favorite AI tool that you use?
Yeah, I probably ChatGPT. I've been using that for like 2, 3 years now as a part of the early on beta. Um, I want to say it was like, what is it? Maybe, yeah, 2 years ago. honestly. 2 years ago, maybe a little bit earlier than that. Um, I do a lot of programming and I do a lot of uh, working in databases and architecture strategy. So it's very easy for me. I think if you do PowerPoints or something like that, Copilot for M365 is like okay. Beautiful Slides is another good one. It just kind of depends on what your use cases are. A lot of companies are building off Copilot, but I mean, Perplexity AI is another cool one that's out there. You have Grok from Elon Musk and Twitter. That's pretty good
Mm.
too. Um, and so, yeah, like I try to play around with them all and, not try to have too much of a bias in terms of responses and, double check and triple check them. Because you're at the end of the day, they're just inferring some sort of insights based on what you're feeding it, right? So it's not like a lot of them aren't agentic based workflows yet. OpenAI has their O1 preview model, which is closer to that, but they're throttling that, so you can check that one out. But they're all pretty good nowadays. So it just kind of depends what you're using it for.
It's interesting. I kind of tested it between Perplexity and ChatGPT. They both are good, especially after ChatGPT recently made that integrations into the search. So that's really
Mm.
amped it up. But I've recently noticed that how Google have plugged in Gemini into its actual search results. I think that's pretty cool, especially when you're looking for things like how do I do this? How do I solve this? So it's kind of brings out the steps. So you don't even have to go into the web page and figure that out. So that's
Yeah.
cool. We have almost come to the end of our discussion here, and my last couple of questions is coming back to that Calgary factor once again, and to
Mm.
understand, like from your perspective, what do you think is very unique that makes Calgary the that would or that makes Calgary the hub for data? I
Yeah,
mean, data
I'd
growth,
say,
database innovation.
yeah, you have, probably a three-pronged answer there. You have the legacy industry that is really built off applied data science. You have the amount of people from the tech space. I think Calgary has about a 110,000 tech workers, which is like roughly like 8% of the population, um, which is huge. And then you have all of the different startups that are built in Calgary. I've been a part of many, and we just have this rich like startup culture. So I think when you're looking like towards the future, I think Calgary's got a great incubation, but what we could look to improve on is retaining those incubated companies. So, when we're looking at once you're going past, your seed round or you're looking to scale up your business, you have a mature startup, retaining those businesses so that they don't go down south. That's the thing that I would say that Calgary needs to work on the most. But we already have like a great, I'd say, incubation of those types of businesses. There's so many startups get built off. You have Platform Calgary, you have YYC Data Society, you have Tech Thursday, you have all of these different individuals that are adding on to the space. And if you look at like Vancouver, Toronto, New York, I'm not going to say the Bay Area, but you'd be very hard pressed to see the audience come out on a Thursday night or a Monday night or a Wednesday night that those audiences draw. And so, really, I'm looking for Calgary to see some growth on that second stage of business. Once you get past the startup, once you go into that scale up stage, um, but I think we're already killing it. And when you look at the businesses that are coming out of Calgary, um, like we have a once in a generation opportunity, one from the what we already have here, but then also the foreign investment that's looking to come to Calgary, and people that are looking, externally, whether it's Europe or USA or whatnot, that are focused on Calgary because again we have that legacy oil and gas industry that you could plop a bunch of data centers around. It's already starting to happen. There's projects that are be going up for Calgary and surrounding areas, not necessarily in the city, but around. with all the land that we have, tying into those energy infrastructures to be able to produce a data center, possibly on even indigenous land. So we have something special in Calgary and Alberta, and I'm looking to see where it goes over the next 5 to 10 years.
That's amazing. Like like I like the line when you said it's we have once in a generation opportunity. That's really cool. And funnily, like I said, you already answered the question that I'm gonna ask next. I was gonna ask you what makes Calgary the place where everybody wants to move in and work. So you kind of answered that. And if you have anything to add on to that, you can.
Yeah, no, I just say, you have like events like YYC Data Con that are going to be taking place at the BMO Center. We're in their brand new expansion right now. It's an absolutely stunning space. It's the largest convention center in Western Canada. And really, when you're looking at the DataCon, it's a completely bootstrapped event built over the last 5 years that the community has come together on. That once was a very grassroots based event is now turned to look to help influence policy and thought leadership by creating a domain in which different leaders and experts can come and have conversation. And they're looking to have that conversation so that we can look at implementing change and then tracking it over time. So yeah, like that once in a lifetime, once in a generation experience, like Calgary is living it right now. Um, and there's a difference between what's going on here and then South Korea, Tel Aviv, the Bay Area, New York. We have a completely different ecosystem. Last year we were the third best city to live in the world. This year we're the fifth. So we're consistently looking good there. And when you're looking at that work-life balance plus the opportunities, and then the ecosystem, like there's nothing better than I've seen than the Calgary ecosystem. Everybody's so friendly, everybody's looking to help out, and everybody's looking to help those champions really take over and make the space better for the next generation. And so when we're looking at events like the DataCon, which I'm leading, we're really looking at solidifying the environment and tech ecosystem for data and setting it up so that the next generation of people graduating and coming into the workforce have an easier time than we did for an industry that's just in its infancy. So super excited, super optimistic, had some great partners along the way and, building more every day. And so if, anybody's interested in checking it out, yYCdata.ca/datacon, you really have this great event and other sister events that we throw throughout the year that help innovate in that space and help solidify the groundwork that Calgary's already building itself to be that monumental city. So it's really a mix between public, private, and then community that's coming together to build this awesome event that everybody can benefit from.
That's amazing. And you've given us a really good picture of what to look forward to. Is there anything that you would particularly add to any newcomers who want to enter into the data field, or any professionals who's new to Calgary and they wanted to step into the data field? Is there any tips that you would like to share to them?
Yeah. Well, I was new 6 years ago now. And the things I would say is look for ways to be involved. I was lucky I came here to go to school for actuarial science, it's just essentially applied mathematics and statistics. And from day one, I went to go get involved. And then me and some buddies, we took an existing society that was strictly focused on actuarial science, and we formulated the first actuarial and data science society at the UC. That was me and my buddy Donald Murtai. And we just looked to build relationships with industry so that we could learn more. I'd say it's the possibilities are endless when you're a student. I have students always reaching out for me to come, talk to them or have coffee or whatnot. So I'd suggest do a lot of that. A lot of people in the space have been where they were, whether they're new to Calgary and new to Canada or just new to Calgary in general. So reach out. Like Calgary's a city of relationships. Reach out, have coffees, try once a week if you can. If you can't, once every 2 weeks, and follow up with people, every 3 to 6 months, let them know where you're at, and always ask questions, stay curious, and come with an agenda. If you're interested in talking to someone, really look at who they are, what's their background, how they can help you, and come with a targeted hit list, because then that makes it very easy for them to help you with your life and direct you to people in their network. Because Calgary is a big city. We have, I think, 1.6 million people, but it's also very small, and you see people all the time, similar events. I know we're going to see each other at 10, 20 events probably for the next 10, 12 months. And so just reach out, stay connected, and always keep in touch with people. And then attend events like YYC DataCon, Tech Thursday, YYC Data Meetup. There's a number of different things that are going on, and it's a great way to meet friends, and just stay connected and ask questions. Platform Calgary is also a great place to hang around. I'll often be there just working, chilling on my laptop, because usually at least once a week something's going on there. So you'll bump into someone, make some friends, and just ask to grab a coffee.
That's amazing. There's a lot of ideas, support, and a good confidence boost that you can get to grow in your career. Okay, we are almost at the end of our discussion, and I would like to close it off by asking one question. So, is there a particular quote or a book or a movie related to about data that you often go back?
Yeah, I don't know if it'd be like a book about data or like a quote about data, but I'm a big quote guy, and I think the only quote that I would probably give, this is a hard one.
No problem.
Let me pull it up, because I have a couple on my phone here that I
Okay.
usually look at.
Quotes are interesting. When you forget everything and you go on, and a quote can suddenly hit you back, and then it'll pull you in a very different direction. It's interesting.
Yeah, this is a quote I've had for probably, I want to say, like 7 years.
That's
And it's a quote by Aristotle. It says, "You are what you repeatedly do, so you are what you repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence ought to be a habit and not an act." And I think to relate that to like the coding or the data space, if you're looking to be a subject matter expert, you have to practice, and you have to practice on real world applications and look for experience any way in which you can. And that's going to look different depending on who you are and what you want to do. And so, I'd always just encourage people to stay curious and look for ways that they can make an impact, whether that's through volunteering, meeting people, different friends, or, working on projects that they find online. Practicing your craft is super important. And so that's something that I've always looked at doing. I have a couple other quotes, but they'd probably be a little bit too aggressive, or, different things that I use to keep myself personally motivated. So I'll keep those ones to myself. But I think that's a good grounding one, especially when you're looking at, possibly changing industries, or looking at, shifting your career. Like practice, 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 and look to apply that into your life. I've seen a lot of people build personal projects that they'll put in their portfolio rather than going on like a Kaggle or whatnot, and doing some sort of challenge that has instructions predefined. A great way to do that is also by doing startups. I've been a part of like 4 myself, where over the last few years, me and my buddies have just gotten together and we're like, let's try to solve this problem, and then a couple months later we fail, and then we go to a different one. Because at the end of the day, my opinion on post-secondary education is you're there to learn to solve problems and be able to learn how to think independently and as a group. And so relating that back to the quote of practice and looking to be excellent in everything you do, and making it a habit. It doesn't have to be every day. It could be every other day or, whatnot. Same with the gym. But setting that level of consistency in your life so that you're able to continually come back and look at your growth trajectory and see, okay, I did these steps, I failed here, but then I learned this, and then I went here, and then I failed again, and then I went here and I learned this, and then I went there, and looking at what works best for you. I obviously like talking, so I just talk to a lot of people, and I ask them questions. But whether that's reading books, doing research, talking to people, there's so many different ways to learn, and you just got to find the way that works best for you.
It's very interesting because I kind of find myself in the curve very often. You start something and then it goes, and then you suddenly feel like it's not working. But it's at the end of the day, it's about maintaining that consistency and to have that push that it's okay, but we can still take one step ahead and see what happens next. So it's very interesting. Thank you so much. That brings us to the end of our discussion today. I really appreciate your time and all the very valuable, important insights that you have shared with Calgary Catalyst audience today. Thank you so much for the insights. And I kind of got a preview or a peek into the world of data science, which I'm not normally in. So appreciate that. Thank you as well for that.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me, and looking forward to seeing you at YYC DataCon 2025.
It'll be very interesting. I was there last year. I'm looking forward to this one. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much.